Melbourne. We're preparing. Got it. Setting your meeting up. Coming. I'll let you know when we started.
Feels very tense today.
What? All right, so I'll just mute that YouTube where we're filming. It's the Rant Moonee Valley preview, and Dodd has kindly consented to help us out this week and next week. It is, of course, what have we got this week, Dodd? The Fee and Stakes, which is a auto entry into the Cox Plate. It's a classy field of 6 horses to go around in race 4, and do we care?
Not really. There's only probably 2 or 3 horses that are actually looking to get into the Cox Plate from the race. The others is just for a barrier trial, so pretty easy race to do. There's a couple of there's a fillies race, the Atlantic Jewel, and race 6, and a couple of other horses that we'll be interested in. So we'll find some winners, and hopefully Moonee Valley won't be too mean to us.
All right, so you're thinking more Money Valley than Moonee Valley. We're looking at a dead track, or will it be better than that?
I went saw 5. I thought it was going to be drying weather for the next few days, and so railed through saw 5. Usual Moonee Valley, I think, just want to be on pace. But looking at the previous results, you could make ground in a couple of the races last year, so I've sort of gone into it with an open mind, saying fair track.
All right, and obviously we're going to be concentrating on the quaddy legs, which is 6, 7, 8 and 9. Gord, how does it look to you?
Looks like a tough card to me. There's some bets there.
Well, you've picked the tough races, of course.
Yes,
I mean, some of the earlier races look like they might be offering bets as opposed to the later races, which look opaque.
Yeah. I've found a few that are going to be map positive, and I'm always happy when I find what I think might be the best horses and they're actually go forward horse. That puts me in my happy place.
All right. Well, I'm going to brush through the first 5, one of which is that feature that I mentioned, which is the Fee and Stakes. But we do have a Sydney horse in race 1 up against the Melbourne 3-year-olds. Major Beale comes off a Rosehill run where he raced pretty much on the fence. He stalked the leader, his stablemate, who went to Wyong and got beaten last Sunday. And you'd imagine that he should be able to find the front in race 1 from the outside draw. Any opinion there, without obviously having gone into this race in any depth?
Obviously the one I went looking for was Major Beale, coming off the Sydney Saturday form, and it's a go forward horse, which is another good thing for me. And Gay Waterhouse up in distance, so you notice it like one over the 13, then stayed at the 13, which is a bit of a negative for Gay. So you can that was a decent run, and you can sort of think it can springboard off that going up to the 1,500 metres. So that all looks nice. Saying that, thought there was some interesting other Melbourne horses down there, so I'm not terribly excited about betting in the race, but it was the one I went looking for.
Yeah, it does look a fraught race because we've got 3 lightly raced types from good yards with hot riders on: Big Story, Red Sun Sensation and Elegant Diva. So we've lost Dodd. He turned into a statue and now he's gone. So we'll just hang fire and maybe get on to something more fertile. Of course, race 2 is a 2,000 metre race where Chris Waller's got Desert Icon backing up from the 1,700 last week. 7-day backup. There doesn't look to be much speed. It does feel like it's D-Day for Desert Icon, who at his only run in Sydney back last preparation was very good against Too Much to Bear. The only other horse that I could see that represented danger there was Midnight Blue. Race 3 is a 3-year-old Colts and Geldings race, and Gaybot's got a horse here that has been pretty plain in Sydney to date. That's Athletica. A race where Sebenak is a dual acceptor across Sydney and Melbourne, and didn't really return with any verve there in Sydney, albeit on a track that wasn't playing very favourably. I did think that that was...
Oh, Dave, he's up the top there. We've got
There he is. We've got him back.
Yeah, we got...
You are. He was a leprechaun.
Yeah.
Irish Dave, welcome back.
What did I miss? Race 1?
Race 1, race 2. Yeah, I'm trying to skate through them to get to the more serious
I actually
affairs.
have a tip in race 2, Mark, if I wouldn't mind giving it.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I sort of Desert Icon's been a horse I tend to be against a lot of the time, and I didn't think Lightning Jack has done much this prep either. So I was happy to find this Pre-to-Turn down the bottom from Matthew Brown. It's got a huge figure course and distance at the end of last prep, and then
That's the Alistair Clark, yeah.
Yeah, and then hasn't had a jockey in its entire career. Has been carrying Brian Higgins and Bo Mertens and stuff. Drops from 57 to 54 here. Craig William goes on. Returned fine. Like, I think it's going to improve. And yeah, I just think it finally gets a jockey. And I think it's a bet at like $7, $8, $9, whatever it is.
All right, lightly raced 4-year-old Entire, which
I love that, Dodd.
Ran in some interesting stuff last. The only question I had, Dodd, was that the closing sectional there in the Jimmy the Bear race, who obviously went around last week at the Caulfield in the nightcap at Caulfield, was a particularly slow finish.
Yeah.
So I guess that's maybe why you're getting on.
Yeah, I'm not really using that as a data point because it's Logan McNeil. You know what I mean? Like that's not the
you're saying this is an easy race to win. It is a slow pace race, and it's kitchen sink time for Desert Icon, which I guess will lure the punters in.
Pre-to-Turn is a bet. It's got a history of spiking second up. It's got its biggest figure and the best run of this mob by a fair margin is course and distance. Definitely interesting.
All right. Race 3, I did briefly touch on race 3, which is 3-year-old Colson Gelding's race, where I wondered whether the map was any good for the current favourite Shalaman, who is number 4, and number 2 Mullane was the horse that perhaps interested me the most. Moody Nolan, just one run back at Caulfield, and second up into this race interested me. The 4th is the Mr. Brightside.
Race 3, there's one lightly raced one there that might just have come back a far better horse, and it's long odds. I thought of some interest was number 6 Latvian. Obviously, I'm very happy with those connections. Its figure when it won at Moonee Valley, so it's a course and distance winner, and that figure wasn't very big, but I'd suggest putting it out off that win. It might have just come back a far better horse. It would need to, but we're getting $15 to find out when there isn't any superstars in the race.
All right,
could you forgive the Toppy 7X run at Rose Hill, just being against the bias and now back onto the dry might suit John?
I think he's fucked that horse up because basically they didn't have a clue going into the debut race at Caulfield, and it surprised them, and so then they chucked it into the Group 1. It came to Rose Hill in the slipper, obviously, just went back and didn't feature. And God, you would have looked at its trial before its 2 trials before resuming at Rose Hill. I presume you didn't like them.
No, it is a horse that from the yard is obviously a very nice type, so it might have something, but I just needed to see it just be a little bit better late. If you could line it up against cattle around it, and I didn't think it was that impressive. But look, it's Sydney down to Melbourne. Like, that's a tip.
Well, but that's always the question. You see, we've got to curate these things. It's not a matter of just backing them all, as you say, Gord. It's this one, no, this other one, and maybe the third one. All right. So the Group 2, Mr. Brightside, obviously resumed for a win in the Caulfield race 3 weeks ago. It looks a Kleiner race it comes out of. It actually won the Midway here last year. The last race on the card Saturday, that was Mr. Brightside. And when you sort of look at Inspirational Girl, who he was running with in the autumn, are they too far apart, Dave?
No, I don't think so, because one's got intent and one doesn't. So I think Inspirational Girl is the target race is the Caulfield Cup or something, isn't it? So they're just trying to get her out and trip this prep, and I think Mr. Brightside will be map positive, has the recent run. Just hard to go anywhere else in that race, really. All
right, so you're giving this race to the favourite. The horse that I was completely unfamiliar with was Earlswood, who an 5-year-old import by a trainer trained by someone I've never heard of. Had one run back in the autumn against a relatively common team, but obviously got the job done. Is there anything there with it?
I can say that our sharpest punter that bets with us, the highest margin punter we have, has backed it in the early markets, if that helps.
Right, that does help actually. Yeah, it just seemed like a race where the form students would just go, oh, well, Mr. Brightside, he's returned well. Here he is. He's set up a profile now. He's going to be sort of very, very positive in everything he goes around in because that's the nature of the stable. But I wasn't sure whether there was actually any sort of cop in his setup.
Yeah, he's never been one of mine. I would never back him with this price, but it's hard to go anywhere else. Like Earlswood, I think, is the logical danger, and Inspirational Girl, probably just a barrier trial for something bigger down the track.
The short course race, the McEwen, sees return of the, now 3-year-old filly Coolangatta, and she's currently around the 5-4 mark in this race. How are we lining her up? Without going
to Gord, I think. Give this one to Gord.
It's a horse that I always go looking for, but look, let's just say we're quite comfortable now that the 2-year-old A-grade stuff hasn't been standing up. So for it to go round 5-4, as you mentioned, Mark, against some hard heads that have been running in proper races, that's far too short. You've got to be against it. Models will have it short because of the 50 kilos or something like that, I think. But look, it'd want to have made considerable improvement off its 2-year-old stuff to be beating this mob, and it's a short price favourite. So obviously you have to bet around it, and there's just an easy bet here, and that's number 2 in the Congo. It's trialled far better this time in than it has previously, and it's got lines through Animo, etc. And it's map positive. Like, it's either going to lead or half cart Zoo style. Which I'm really happy about the 2 possible positions it could be in at Moonee Valley. Coolangatta is going to be off them and would have to be bloody good to get past them. I'm actually pretty keen. This is just an easy bet for me because I'm map positive. I've got beautiful form lines. I've got some great figures. It's just an easy bet.
Dave's snarling there at the Shelby 66 line.
I'm just snarling. He's never had a run over 1,000 meters. Like I think Gord's got good points there, and there is a chance that Rothfire kicks up as well underneath. So I wouldn't just auto assume he gets across and finds a spot like easy over 1,000 meters.
The perennial there is where I would be looking. Away game, which is just I really don't like her, but she's just poking around all the time and just there to be left standing at the finish. I know it's the stablemate of the 3-year-old filly Coolangatta. I don't know. Gay's horses in 1,000-meter races. I get all icky. They're just,
you just get icky about 1,000-meter races, Mark, if they don't have 1,000-meter form. It's
not so much that. I mean, you really want. You really want Gay when you know that they're in control. If they're not in control, I struggle.
Well, you want to back anything else? Gordbet.com.au.
Right. I think that In the Congo's a myth myself, but he's an honest myth. All right, now we're into the serious stuff, which is the 3-year-old filly race. It's got black type. It looks a race for tradesmen or tradespeople rather than anything else. I'll read the market out. So it's I'm Loving You at $3.80, Lady Laguna $6, Troach $7, Boogie Dancer $8, out to Revolutionary Miss at $11, and Nana Gooey at $12, $21 in bar. We've lost 2 already, Queen of the Ball and Wave Rider Boy, and Mumbai Jewel is a dual acceptor. As far as the map is concerned, and I'll be interested in Dave's thoughts on this, but the autos from Ratings to Win have 3 jousting for the lead here. Troach trying to control. Portray, its stablemate, is handy, and perhaps Lady Laguna is the horse to sit outside Troach and put pressure on it. The others look to sit off them. Dave, have you got an opinion about the map here?
Yeah, I had Lady Laguna and Troach. I didn't think Portray would push on as hard because it's first up, and it had to be clicked up a fair bit to lead last start. So I think it's probably the one that'll probably just take a sit of the three of them. So I would anticipate Craig Williams won't give away the lead on Troach, considering how quick it went last start to put 2 lengths on Kaboo. So yeah, Troach to lead and Lady Laguna to sit outside lead and control the pace.
Right, where does that take us? You can have first go, Dove.
Well, it's interesting because when I did my first cut of prices, I had both of those nowhere near in the market, both horses, because I was dealing with...
You mean the 2 on-pace horses you're talking about?
Yeah. So Lady Laguna and Troach, I just have them as sort of 1,100 metre horses, sort of speedy squibs.
Yep.
And I think there's a proper horse in this race, at least one anyway. And yeah, so I was kind of happy to be against those on-pace runners, assuming it's a wet track or a fair track, sorry. So yeah, I just went with I'm Loving You. I had an early bet on this horse. It won 2 back at Flemington down the straight, showed really good ability and really found the line. And then it came back first up the other day at Caulfield. And it ran third, Lady Laguna was fourth. But it was an interesting race because they got to the front and then Lady Laguna was sitting OSL. Ben Mellum just filled their lungs a bit. You know what I mean? He took about let the leader have 3 or 4 lengths, and then everything behind it, sort of the concertina effect, gave away 2 or 3 lengths. And I'm Loving You still found the line. It was first up. I think it'll improve up to 1,200. They've had a bit of time with it, and I think it just maps beautifully. Gate 3, it'll be...
Does it map beautifully? It seems like an off-pacer that might be a bit buried here.
Yeah, so I had this same conversation with the trader who's trading the meeting, and I know it hasn't shown any early speed yet, but it hasn't been asked to. So like it's just flopping out the back, you know. And I think
so there'll be some intent here. It's it's obviously prime for the race, resuming in the lead up there and second up here. Just had 3 starts, so I can see the narrative certainly.
Assuming you can make ground, I think I'm Loving You is the bet. And if I was to have a saver, I'd have it on Revolutionary Miss. I'd just be happy to forgive the first up run on the wet track, back onto the dry here, and has got previous figures in his career, which is better than those below in the market.
It was an out of character, particularly poor run. Gord, what are your thoughts here?
Well, it's interesting lining up I'm Loving You and Lady Laguna out of the obvious lead up there. Now, Dodd, you might notice it actually, without I'm Loving You, without being under a ride at all at the start, was going to comfortably settle 5th, a length and a half, 2 lengths off them. And then that's when that concertina effect that you're talking about happened. And that's why it ended up being near out the back after that. It was a terrible situation, and it did well to come home nice late. But the problem with that is there was an inversion of the field. So those on pace were disadvantaged. So that means that you've got to sort of, with the unlucky run of I'm Loving You and the brutal pace, you've got to sort of forgive Lady Laguna a little bit because it was the best of the on-pace runners on that occasion. So they're tied to each other. I agree with you. 3 has more ability, and I think it can posse up from the barrier 3, so that's looking good. It's a horse of interest for me. And the other one, which is a horse I've not really had much of an opinion of, and has actually got PR to do its good runs recently, or in the first couple of runs, his preparation, they're either weak races or PR to win, was number 6 Troach. Now, that run last start, I know it was fence, and that was the advantageous position to be in at Rosehill on that occasion, but they went like the clappers, man. They went like the clappers. I thought it did bloody well to hold on for third there. It was definitely the best of the on-paces, and I didn't think it actually really knocked up that much late either. So I'm looking for map positive horses. For me, the obvious bet here is number 6 Troach. It's got that Sydney form. But yet again, I don't like the Opal Ridge race when it PR'd. I don't like the midnight in Tokyo True Crime race. But
Highway form.
Yeah, but I just, Opal Ridge is running in the highway. Race 1 at Randwick on Saturday. J-Mac on too, Don.
Is there? I know Lambourne loves these comparisons of SPs. So Lady Laguna and Troach met in the Sweet Embrace, and Lady Laguna started 6-4, and Troach was 25-1.
2-year-old.
Yeah, that's not quite true. Didn't Lady Laguna start?
I have $2.60 on Betfair here.
Oh, sorry. Yes, you're right. Yes, you are right. Sorry, I was looking at something else. Look, that is holding Troach back. I mean, Troach has got some recent Sydney form, which is better than autumn 2-year-old Sydney form, if you know what I mean. So that will hold it in some stead, but it's certainly dragging on it, yes. Anyway.
It's not dragging on it at all. What you did ages ago as a young little 2-year-old has very little.
Yeah, but they're both in their second preparation. They're pretty exposed. I think what we've seen from both Troach and Lady Laguna is we know what to expect from them. What you're hinting at, Gord, is that Troach has got some good recent creds that hold her in good stead here.
I weight SPs far less than you guys do anyway, because I think the market's stupid. So I'm obviously not going to give as much respect to SPs.
Under the premise that they are all exposed in this race, does that make the number 1 Revolutionary Miss really well placed off the handicap rating of 92?
Well, yeah, but I mean, she's now got 2 big failures. Has she shot her bolts and needs to recover?
If Revolutionary Miss was first up into this race, I'd be having a massive go at it. But that run was just so bad.
Yeah.
But you also looked at the trials before that, Gord. So, I mean, we do use trials as a reference for horses that are second up after their first up run, saying, well, it didn't work first up, but the trials were good enough for me to have another crack.
Well, they were Snowden trials, so they're quite tricky to assess.
Opaque. Well, we've got an alternative lead up here, Dodd, which I presume no one wants a bar of, the Clarity race on this track.
No.
Bunch finished. I saw them go across the line. They were stretched across the track. The unraced Clarity managed to tip them out, obviously, as the roughie of the group that have proceeded to this race.
Yeah, put the pen straight through. The only course you could maybe forgive there is the Godolphin Vavia, which was like wide throughout. But I mean, it looks an awful race, and happy.
All right, so Vavia's got a line through Nana Gui, which is Jamie Carr, Peter Moonee. Is it a progressive type?
Well, I think Jamie picks it over Boogie Dancer, which is probably something. But I think no. I went back and had a look at Nana Gui's 1,200 meter Moonee Valley run. Had every possible, and just looks I don't know, just looks a horse. Doesn't look like it's that progressive, and I'm happy to just look around it here.
All right, so given that all those things I've pointed to are pulling on each other, I went to the other blue colours, which is number 13, Portray, resuming here. So third preparation, but had a run at Canterbury, obviously 2 runs in Victoria, and is fresh here, and is coming off a win, which, as far as females are concerned, I'm always keen to look for, and a horse that posies up and just has different form. She is 20s.
I think you're trying to mirror a tip of yours from last Saturday at Rose Hill there, Mark.
Which
one? One shot that overperformed and came second. I think.
Oh, yes, the blue colours that ran second to Kaboo. Yeah, anyway, I did go over and over this race and went,
I went looking for Portray as well, Mark, just because it has that unexposed profile, 2 from 3, but the form out of its last win is just woeful. There's just horses just doing nothing out of it. So I think
it's one of those situations where you can take a winner because they have won. Yeah. And I understand you're not getting the happy feeling or the cosy feeling that you get when you see the form being franked. All right, let's move on to another.
One thing there, guys, about Troach as well, because I'm even keener after this conversation. You've provided a lot of clarity for me to get keener on my selection. Reece Jones off to C. Williams on is just a massive jockey change, and from ratings to win, Damien Oliver, last 30 days, has had 34 runners for 10 winners at plus 40%. Last 60 days, he's had 81 runners for 23 winners at plus 43%. So coming into the carnival, good old C. Williams is flying.
Have you been on the right side or the wrong side of those, Dodd?
Which horses? Sorry, I missed that.
The C. Williams horses.
Oh no, C. Williams is not my go-to jockey. I'm a D Lane man. Damien Lane's my man.
All right, so that is the first leg of the quaddie. What are we suggesting in terms of are we leaving Lady Laguna out? She's the squib that is tested by the recent Sydney creds of Troach. Obviously, I'm loving you. Goes into the.
Interested in 2 horses. I'm 6 from 3. They're the only 2 I'm interested in. So you guys can decide on those.
And Dodd, you
I'd
have
happy to just go
casting
3-1
voting.
out.
All right, okay. Well, there's only 2 horses in the quaddie there, 3 and 6. You've overruled me. Race 7 is an older horses listed race where they're all desperate for a run. It's a bit odd to see a field this size at this level. Prince of Boom, the Queenslander, is $6.50. Corner Pocket, $7. Rangers, the good, honest Sydney Toiler, is $7.50. Out to Wanda Bar at $10, and then your $13 bar. And this looks a race where they will. Well, there's plenty to get forward here. So the auto maps from Ratings to Win have Asar, Corner Pocket, Prince of Boom thrusting forward. Kalos maybe just underneath them, making them work. And then you've got 5 horses just in behind the speed, if not participating early. Rangers, Age of Chivalry, Felicia, Oxley Road, and Holbein, who's a despised roughie. Any thoughts on the map, Todd?
Well, the blinkers go back on Asar, so I'm tipping it'll go forward, but it is back from 1400 to 1200. I thought Prince of Boom would go forward from the wide barrier. Craig Williams goes on, so it's pretty much, he'll just be going straight for the front. Bit of intent there with the jockey booking. Corner Pocket, thought they might take a sit. There's been little cash for it as well to suggest a lot of intent. So, I was thinking Prince of Boom sort of on the race with Rangers, Kalos, Corner Pocket all in behind, and maybe Asar pushing up as well. But yeah, good tempo because it's a big field.
And where'd you start here?
My first look was Rangers because but then Mark, you put me off it, Mark. But you don't even know you put me off it, and you put me off it. I had a look at
I
his
know,
wins.
these voices, they just
and Grafton, and I thought, Jesus, Lamborn's going to fucking.
Welcome to GP world.
Gord, it doesn't bother Gord because he doesn't listen to anyone else unless he's inclined to an open mind at various occasions, but he's very, very considered about when he opens his mind.
Yeah. I think it's just an easy each way bet, maybe more at place 1/3, but like Rangers is just honest as the day is long. Like I was talking in the chat room a few months ago, about how honest this horse is. He just keeps improving.
I know, because he's in there and he's had 36 starts, so he's not a lightly raced horse.
He's a marvel. He's actually a marvel. So, and he can do this figure. He'll get the right run with Zari. He'll just be looking for a bit of luck at the top of the straight. The other horses I went looking for were Oxley Road, back onto the dry, has the run under the belt, and was wide no cover on its resumption to a few back at Caulfield. Now it's actually started $3.20 in a Group 3 last start, so like down in grade here, has to be respected and can go forward with a bit of intent. I was happy to play around Prince of Boom. I just can't see Rob Heathcote coming across and just like winning a race like this and plundering it. I just don't see it happening.
But they are quite fertile, the Queensland sprinters, because there's a lot of juice in Queensland sprinters. They're how do I put it? I don't know. They're fast horses up there, and so they come down to, well, particularly Melbourne, I think, to a lesser extent Sydney, but they're certainly players in Sydney as well. But Melbourne, you find them going, well, this is easy meat, this Victorian stuff.
Really, I don't know. I don't know if I can agree.
If you want to err on a side with distances, I mean, Melbourne is their stayers are more competitive. Sydney, sprinters middle distance. We just own everybody, and we're probably on par with Melbourne as all just behind them as stayers. And Queensland is just all about sprinter as a general rule of thumb.
There you go.
All right, so you're
keen to be against Kalos as well, because I feel like he's just racing sort of with poor manners at the moment. He's over racing, not finishing off his races. So I was looking at Oxley Road and Rangers. Happy to be against Wonderbar, Prince of Boom, Corner Pocket.
Yeah, although you look at Wonderbar, it's probably, you probably can't think of backing a horse out of the Hard Empire Missile Stakes at Randwick, you're thinking. I mean, she did sit on the rails on that day, which perhaps wasn't the place to be, but anyway, it's Wonderbar. Rangers, of course, got a line through Ranch Hand, who's got a line through Kalos. So, I mean, I know it's a bit difficult that with these 4-year-olds, they're leaving you a little bit cold. But, Gord, you were keen on Kalos last week. Have you any interest in this race?
No, not at all. I am looking for a run-on horse here. I think there's, as Dodd and you have mentioned, there's going to be considerable pace on. It's just which one sort of gets the right run to use the camber and blow them away late if the track is playing with the ability to do something like that. Look, I'm really interested in backing two horses in this race, and I think there's a chance that neither of them run. One of them is number 9, Ranch. It's a horse that I've always thought has a little bit of ability. It's got some decent figures elsewhere, and I just love that trial. Child Overpass just went crackerjack in front, and Ranch Hand was sort of just right next to Zaki, and I thought Ranch Hand actually might have trialled just slightly better than Zaki. That's looking nice as a line. And we've got that nice win at Eagle Farm, and it was super unlucky the time it ran against Rangers. It was actually the short price favourite on that occasion and just got shuffled back. So it was a complete forgive job. So it's a horse of interest for me. But Barrier 18 Sea Waller, they have a tendency to scratch, so I could be wasting everybody's time right now. And the other one who is just dead set flies first up is number 15, Gravina. I don't have a jockey booking, but yet, guys, do you have one?
No, it's an emergency, so I didn't need a jockey.
Yeah, I know, but I mean,
they can wait. It means you can wait, Gord. So
I know,
if something comes out that's got a good jockey, you go, I'm going to grab that.
Totally agree with that. But if it hadn't booked a jockey, I would be more comfortable that it's in the float down there, waiting for a start. Yeah, I love its first up run. It dead set rattles late, and I'm looking for a horse on this map and pace that can do something like that. Blue colours fresh, 54 kgs, and a really massive figure. What was it? First up last prep. I know it was on the wet track at Randwick, but wow, that was a win. Anyway, Taxi was flying at the time, and it went past it like it was stationary. So, yeah, they're the two horses of interest, and if one of them or both, I'll back both of them. If both of them run, I'll back one of them if one of them runs, and I won't bet in the race if neither of them run.
All right. Well, the Moonee horse is very interesting here that you mentioned, Dodd. Oxley Road, obviously, 12 months ago, it sort of graduated into this, well, into better than this company, and it's been banging around there in the features ever since. And 7 weeks off into this race is looking for a kill, you would think, just to get back into the grade that it's been running in.
Yeah, I'd just like to see it show a bit of early toe in its race. It's been they've been riding the call the last few, and it'd be just nice to see it up there.
All right, so quaddie-wise, what are we thinking here? Because this is it's a deep race, certainly, if not an impossible race.
I think Gord's right with Ranchand and Gravina. I think they have to be respected, especially Ranchand. I treated it like a scratching just because of the gate, but I watched the track work of all the horses at this meeting. They had it on because I was trying to be thorough, and Ranchand was comfortably the best work that I witnessed anyway. So
right, so you're doing a bit of trial watching there, disguised as track work.
Yeah,
fair enough. Gord, what would you like in? Yeah,
I'm only interested in my two, but you have to throw others in, so leave it to you guys.
All right, so there's a bit of dispute about. Well, where do you sit with the Queenslander, Gord? Because you weren't poo-pooing it, but at the same time, you clearly didn't mention it. That's Prince of Boom we're talking
one
about.
That I had a really close look at, and I'll just bring up. I did find a reason. Did I not see? Yeah, I mean, I've got some big figures for those wins up in Queensland, but I just really didn't like the lines, as in the cattle it was running against. So figures line up, but quality of opposition didn't, and you did go off on a flop.
wins at Gold Coast and Toowoomba.
Yeah, well, But by the way, the figures are all right, Dodd.
Oh, yeah, big figures, but I mean, so what?
But I'm with you, Dodd. Like that, you can't pay 100% attention to that figure because I think those out wide joints, you can do some funny stuff.
Yeah, can you repeat the figure up in grade? Essentially, is the question you're asking.
Yeah. Well, that's a sooty thing, isn't it?
It is. All right, so we're leaving Prince of Boom out. The Corner Pocket looks like more of a 1,400 metre horse to me. It's sort of a left. It looks like a sort of a left field type of horse to me. I'm not saying it's out of this race. Obviously, it's second pick in this race. But any sort of consensus on it, given that we've left the top of the market out. Not that it's that short.
I think they'll just be going around for a ball around, and they'll probably aim.
All right. So Rangers we're putting in. I'm very ick about Gate 1 in this race, but it goes in. Gravina goes in. I'm going to. Well, I mean, it is number 17, so it it's probably not going to run. But Kalos, I would put Kalos in, and Gord's obviously putting Gravina in, and Ranch Hand is going in. So where did we end up there?
$21 Ranch Hand at the moment. Like, don't think, just bet.
So our tenuous quaddie looks like 4 Rangers, 9 Ranch Hand, 15 Gravina, 17 Kalos. There are 2 emergencies in there, obviously. Race 8. Now we're back up to the mile here for the last 2 races. And
this lousy mob sports bet who are top odds in every horse that's got emergencies, Mark? Hey, confusing the punter.
Well, they're trying to lead the way. I do give them a big tick for actually saying, look, fuck this bloody emergency treatment. Everyone just bet with them in and take deductions if they're scratched.
I think the way Dodd and Sportsbet do it is far better, but it's just funny. It's really good advertising for them as well because
they look like they look so attractively priced.
The other thing is because we get a little bit more early money with those prices, you actually get more of a guide of where the market's going to trend.
Yeah,
because we could be betting $13 and everyone else betting 10, and we haven't laid a bet on it, so we know it's going to jump 20s plus. You know what I mean? And they're betting 10. It's just
you're getting some market intelligence because you're actually putting yourself out there, rather than hiding behind the reduced prices.
Yeah.
All right, the penultimate. It's over a mile. It's what is it? 102 benchmark, 102 or something, and Uncle Brian is $2.50. Military Expert resumed with a win there at Caulfield, $4. Mayfair Spirit, who we've seen at the midweeks in Sydney, $8, out to for $15 bar. So it is a skinny race of old horses, stayers, and clearly Uncle Brian has come out of he's placed to win after resuming in the race won by Mr. Brightside. This race looks like average tempo with Military Expert, the second pick, going to the lead. The autos have Sosi Bon handy, and the next 3 are the Amazonian, Nerve Not Verve, and Shot of Irish. Do you have any clarity on this map, Dodd? Seems...
Yeah, the Sosi Bon led last start, but they went an absolute crawl. Nothing wanted to lead, so it just took it up. So it'll be forward from the gate, but I don't think it'll be leading. It won't want to lead. I think Rousseau was better over 2,000, and Shot of Irish can go forward, but wasn't ridden forward first up. So yeah, listen, I think Jamie Carr, Military Expert, controls from the wide barrier. Bit of a safety car race. It'll just go to the front, and nothing can go past them.
What's a safety car race? As in, it's the car out the front there. I love it. Safety car race. You're not allowed to overtake. So how does that work? What happens with this favourite? I mean, I presume that it. We haven't seen much of it. We had 4 Australian starts, and they've been in races where it hasn't necessarily had to participate. Will it sort of show more intent here?
I don't think it has a lot of early speed. I don't think it's got any. I think they'll be happy to be sitting midfield, one off. That's as good as they'll hope for.
All right, we're placed to win, so it doesn't matter. We'll just round them up.
That'll be their thought process, I'd assume. And it's definitely not a camp I want to get involved with at the short quotes. It's they're very dicey camp when it comes to this type of
they're relatively unreliable. I mean, they've got talent, but they're just not. They're, as you say, not reliable.
It's funny though, when you first look at this race, Uncle Bryn just takes your eye, doesn't it? It's just wow, the big figure last start in the Group 2, coming back to a handicap, dropping 5 kilos. You think it's going to be complete moral, but the deeper you go into it, the more you realise he probably should be up in trip already. You know what I mean? I don't know what they're doing coming like when he won at Sale over 1700, like back in April. You'd think he was going on to 2000 and plus, but they've gone back in trip and it just hasn't worked.
Right, so you're a bit antsy about this favourite.
I just think he's a bit of a wind-up merchant. He takes a bit of time to get going, and I don't know if the tempo of this race suits that pattern.
But everyone can see that, so I presume the market is going to factor this in, won't it?
I think the market's pretty stagnant where it is now. I think that's where it'll sit.
All right, so Sportsbet put up markets obviously early yesterday afternoon for this race. What was the response to the prices that were posted?
Most of the money is on Uncle Bryn, including HOTS, like big betting syndicates. Our model sort of spat out evens. That'll probably be the lowest I think it could get to.
Yeah.
And judging by the turnover we're receiving on the horse, I would suggest evens will be bet between now and Saturday.
All right, so it's currently longer than it will trade. Is that what you're saying?
I think so. Not that I'm saying that. Not that I'm saying that price is
It's
correct.
an interesting question, isn't it? Because I mean, there's no guts to this race. So we've got a favourite that's beautifully placed but has got issues, and but there'll be lots of traders in the marketplace that will be for it, and a few that will be against it. In terms of you playing the race, where do you want to go?
I'll be betting late, and hopefully there'll be a drift on Military Expert, and that's probably where my money will go. I actually came into the race thinking I wanted to be against it, and I've ended up finding
it. So talk me through that. What were you thinking about the horse that made you start with that?
Well, the figure that it did last start isn't good enough for this race, I don't think. So I think you need some improvement on what it did last start. And then I had a query on it at the mile, a small query.
Mm-hmm.
But then I sort of talked myself out of that because it trialled over 1,200. Its second trial was over 1,200. And so if its second trial is over 1,200 and it's won over 1,500, I think you can just give the distance query the benefit of the doubt that it can run the mile out, especially with the sympathetic map.
Well, of course, its only mile was on a 7.2, and as everyone, anyone that listens to Glenn ever will know, it's a Redute's choice that he would have said, well, it didn't matter what it did that day. Getting beaten 7 was a good run. Gord, what are you thinking here?
Well, I'll start out with the Busserton and Young stats. Over the last year, they've had 12 horses run round odds on, and 7 of them have won for the minus 5% POT. So they obviously were very well into the red.
Well, they probably averaged $1.80. Okay.
Anyway, saying that, this is an unload job. Number 6 Military Expert. I thought the run of the danger and favourite Uncle Bryn was, what would I call it? I'd call it a bludger's good run. Out the back, just getting it really comfortable and easy, and then coming home decent. Thought some other horses were sort of coming home better than it, to be honest. And then I compare that to Military Expert, who gets complete control here. There's no problems with the 16 because it's got the lovely dominant win at Rosehill over the 15, and the only run over the 16, as Mark mentioned, was on the heavy track, and it's out of Redoubt's choice. Didn't you love El Rocco looming like it was going to go past at last start, and it kicked again? That just screams to me I'm going to love controlling 1,600 here. El Rocco's come out of that and run, I think, a nice second, Dodd. You probably...
last week. It went okay.
Yeah. So that's sort of slightly franked. It's just 58 down to 54 and a leader. So obviously the why everybody's keen on this Bryn horse is because it's backing grade down in weight, which obviously is something that is a big positive, but it's backing grade down in weight on a back marker, which for me is less important than that situation.
Yeah. If you want to use your weight advantage, you get forward.
Yeah,
that's the idea.
By the way, I'd mark Military Expert favourite.
So Gord, this is almost it sounds like your best of the program.
I'm scared of Uncle Bryn, Mark, but it's just never a bet.
Yeah. Well, look, the good thing about Uncle Brian, and I'm going to call him Uncle Brian, despite the fact that you guys calling him Uncle Bryn, is that he's fresh in his campaign. But I'm with you. Scary because there's so little guts to the race. There's only sort of one other horse. We look at the third horse, Dodd, which has got a course and distance win in the Midway 2 weeks ago, and it's Jamie Carr off for Errol Brown.
Yeah, so Jamie Carr's
Ethan Brown.
Yeah, Jamie Carr's picking to ride Military Expert over it, so she does the work for you.
All right, so we're standing at Military Expert, one horse in.
Oh, her manager does the work. Do you know?
All right, we're now on to the Midway, which is I'm calling the Midway because this is the $80,000 race, the race that Mr. Brightside won last year, and in this race, Attractable is $4.80, Global Gift $7.50, Unusual Culture is $8, Mark of the Man and Pounding 10, he's our Bonneville 11, and Unanimous at $12. I found this a difficult affair. As far as the speed is concerned, the auto maps have it an above average pace with Do You Reckon in the van from Think and Fly, Mark of the Man and Global Gift. The current favourite Attractable is drawn wide and may press on looking to get in 1-1. Do you have any thoughts on that map, Dodd?
Yeah, I thought Do You Reckon would lead with the 3 kilo climber on. Yeah. And I had Mark of the Man going forward, Attractable going forward because it's 12 up to 16. And yeah, pretty similar to what you just mentioned. But also pretty similar to what you just mentioned is I found this extremely difficult and struggled to find a bet.
Well, first, I looked at this race straight up, obviously, and the first thing I see is the stablemates there, Attractable and Pounding, both 4-year-old geldings, both third up into this race. They both resumed in the same race at Caulfield, albeit over 1,200, which is a different distance to 1,600. But both of them sort of have similar looking careers in terms of getting to the mile. And the Big Apple race, Pounding starts $5 and is in the finish, and Attractable starts $12 and gets beaten 5. So walk me through the what the market is seeing here, Dodd.
I think it's the run of Attractable, its second up run, which means it's in the market because it ran a good second last start, and then finally third up to a trip. I think that's the data point they're using rather than the first up run.
But you could argue that the other horse went to a wet track at Bendigo, and Kay Quilty. Who the hell is Kay Quilty?
You don't want to know. But I'll tell you something. The trader who's doing this meeting, I had a good chat with him about this race because he was flabbergasted at the early prices. He thought a lot of wet track form was taking up too much percentage in the market, and that there was substantial mistakes made. So for anyone with the time to go through this and try to figure all that out. But he was actually keen on the Kieran Quilty ridden Do You Reckon because he said it would go to the front and you could forgive the last start failure on the wet track. So
B. Mellum off and Kieran Quilty, obviously, it's a different matter when they lead, isn't it? All right, so that failed on the wet track here 2 weeks ago. That's Do You Reckon after some midweek performance where it was in the finish. Are you of that? Are you sort of taking that as your guide or not?
No, I won't be betting in this race. I had a good look at Attractable because it was the one I sort of wanted to go find off the good second last start, but I didn't see enough in it. And with the wide barrier and sort of what I think could be a sticky map, I just didn't want to play.
And how do you feel about 1,200 to a mile when you, generally speaking?
Well, the point I made was I'd rather if last start was 1,400, so you could get the building blocks in place, 12, 14, then 16. So 12, 12, 16 is just not for me. And I'm just happy to steer clear of this race because Pounding, I've always had a horrible opinion of this horse as well. So I wanted to be around it. And Global Gift, I think, is the wet tracker. And it's the second pick in the market. I think Mark of the Man is $9. It's a wet tracker. So very hard race to find. But I'm sure if you look wide enough, you might find something.
So before we get to Gord, I mean, he's our Bonneville. I gave an honourable mention to in the 1,700 last week. It was scratched from that to run in this one. Alana Kelly, I'm not sold on, but it did at least race forward in a mile race, a proper Saturday race, if we call them that, last start. Obviously, it's just had the 3 local starts. Resumed at Caulfield for a win, then stayed at Caulfield, then a break, then Flemington, then another break into this race. Does it fit in there at all or not?
For me, it definitely would, because it fits one of these things that I go looking for when I'm trying to figure out, when I'm stuck with a race and I'm not sure like what's going to improve, because I think all these need to improve to actually do the job. I always go looking for a horse that's done a figure that's just a step off first up, and He's Our Bonneville fits that category. So if I improve He's Our Bonneville's first up run this prep, to the next level, then he's a winning chance in this race, and I think that's all you need to do to win this race. So that'd be definitely a chance for me.
All right, Gord, can you save us here? Because it looks like we're going nowhere, really.
Jesus Christ, it sounds like the guy that's trading it, he might have an idea. And, I have very little respect for the corporate form analysts and traders, I think.
And the corporate lifestyle.
Yeah, and they're absolute B graders. And they actually have to go to work every day while I just get to bed. So it's the horse I started going for, because when you see weak horses, you always want to find the leader, and this thing will get absolute control. So I agree with the map. The problem is I didn't end up finding anything else that I could add to that positive variable. So it's a chance off map, but I don't think it's that crash hot of a horse. And then, Jesus Christ, I was getting tired, and then suddenly I got down to number 13, and I just got excited. Oh, bloody hell, Pounding. Jesus. Easy bet, man. Easy bet, this horse. I will say Exceed and off ratings to win, Exceed and Excel, who's the sire of Pounding. Their worst figures are on track ratings 9 to 12. They're 122 runners for 11 winners at minus 40% on POT. So, and their figures get better as the track conditions improve. So, particularly in that sort of like dead to slow range, which it's going to be tomorrow. If you have a look at its first up run at Caulfield, it was fantastic to cover all that ground first up and still be nice and powerful through the line, that lovely extension neck that I'm looking for. He is going to be suited up in distance, has the great runs over 1,600 metres in higher standard stuff last preparation. So nice return over the 12, which I'm always looking for in middle distance horses. Complete forgive on that heavy track. He actually, on both occasions, he's been in wide barriers, jumped well, and they've been really negative from wide. I think you can posse up a lot closer from barrier 1. I'm going to go for like the Chris Waller pearl there, that the drawing inside, they might actually take advantage of the fact that the horse is jumping all right. I'm Kieran Quilty off for Luke Nolan on. This is just a super easy bet to have. Is it a difficult race? Yes. Do you need value? Yes, but it's ticking a lot of boxes. And the other horse I had a close look at was number 15, Unusual Culture, which is a New Zealand horse, isn't it? And I thought
but it's had 3 local runs at Caulfield and showed speed in a 1200 first up and has ridden very negatively in 2 miles. It seems like they may use a little bit more initiative from gate 2 here.
So I'm 13 from 15 from 3.
Any comment on those mares, 14 and 15 coming out of the Barbies Fox race there, Dodd?
14 is Passione. That's the Nigel Blackison yard. So any sports bet trader will tell you that you just don't back that yard. There's a few yards that are on the blacklist, and Nigel Blackison, Jason
Pardon
Warren.
the pun, yeah.
There you go. But Unusual Culture, I just thought it was just pottering around. It's had 3 runs already and hasn't done anywhere near the figure, and I just want to see more, especially up in grade. So I couldn't find it, especially going back from the inside gate, and I'm no fan of Joy McNeil either. So
yeah, well, I prefer Linda Meach, but I think it has to go in. So as far as the so are we leaving? We're leaving Attractable out by the sounds of it. Global Gift, good. Yes or no for the quaddie, because it's the lure here. 41 start, 7-year-old gelding.
Leaders in the last race, weak opposition.
Yeah. All right. So it goes in.
And one of the rare smart traders at Sportsbet went looking for it as well.
Yes,
Jacob Opperman winning in town. Come on.
So, what about the horse that Linda Meach does go on to, which we haven't discussed? I mean, I know I'm labouring on this race, but a horse that came back to a mile last start at Moonee Valley in the midway, this grade of race. M. Cartwright to Linda Meach. Are we going anywhere there, Dodd? I realise Aaron Purcell's not necessarily a go-to trainer.
No, and the horse does have good map. Like, it does go forward in its races, but I think it prefers racing on soft and heavy conditions.
All right,
so the train to the dry will probably be against.
Okay. All right, so it sounds like we're with a Global Gift, Unusual Culture, Pounding, and he's our Bonneval in the last race. It does feel like we're doing the midweeks in preparation for the carnival, doesn't it? Because I mean, they're good, honest, sort of competitive races on Saturday, but they don't feel like they're particularly attractive races as far as the standard of horseflesh is.
Can you imagine when we're doing this show in 2 weeks' time? It's going to be sensational, Mark, because we're going to be coming off this sort of Wednesday Metropolitan grade racing. A couple of Sydney Metropolitan horses will be down there in 2 weeks' time and just blow them away. It's going to be a film.
Yeah, they don't often get there down there that early. It tends to be more of October. But anyway,
you send the B graders down. Yeah. That's good enough.
All right. Well,
when are you going to get State Oric there, Dodd, and then support your fellow Melbourneians?
No way. I'm very excited as well. I think the spring carnival is starting to heat up. Though I'm starting to get it. There's a bit of spring in the air around Melbourne at the moment, so the weather's picking up and exciting.
And Gord, it sounded like Military Expert was your go-to horse on the card.
It's a bit of an icky spot for me because I like to back favourites, and my two best bets on the card are second favourites, which it makes me nervous, guys.
Well, what about this idea? You look at the favourite, you go, "No, I don't like you." So you look at the second favourite. Yes, I do like you.
Quick fall.
I'm keen.
I do it, but in the Congo. What was the other one? Military Expert, and I just think it's a great bet, Pounding in the last race.
Wow, okay.
Most interesting.
All right, and Dodd, was there a horse that you wish to recommend for your fans, or are you playing a bit of a straight bet on?
Yeah,
Saturday?
I think my parents are listening. So Moonee Valley Race 2, number 8, Pre to Turn, and Race 6, number 3, I'm Loving You, my best bet.
All right, that's race 2 and race 6 for Dodd. Thanks for coming on, Dave. I think you offered to come on again next week, so we'll look forward to a reprisal.
By the way, Dodd, make sure you tell your mum and dad that I'm only joking when I say those comments. Like, seriously.
They'll be right.
All right. Well, thanks for everything, and thanks for watching our Moonee Valley preview for September the 3rd. Of course, the team will be reviewing for members or previewing for members the Randwick program tomorrow, so we'll catch you then. Meanwhile, see ya.
Good luck, guys. Well, that was quite thorough analysis. Jeez.
All right, beauty.
By the way, Dodd, you've convinced me. I'm backing that horse now in race 2. Yeah,
it just seems well placed. I don't know. Like I just hate the other horses in the race. It was actually more like freaking. Yeah, I don't know.
Sherlock Holmes, that kind of thing.
Sherlock Holmes. I wanted to find Desert Icon because it was on the backup, and then just said no. And there's no money for the toppy at all. There's no money for the other Waller thing. So expected to shorten again.
Well, Mark, I'll see you with our lobster and our crab tonight, mate. We're
Hello.
an absolute feast tonight. So
okay, and for any of you watching the live stream, please.
Look at this.